Okay, so today is Thursday, 11th of April 2024, about midday. Sun is shining, the temperature is about 26 degrees centigrade, 80 Fahrenheit. Now, some of my MEDAKA have been producing eggs for a couple of weeks, and some fry have already hatched out. So this is where I mainly take care of the fry until they're large enough to transfer to grow out tubs. The simplest, you sit down, simplest fry management system is this 12-litre bucket. There's 10 litres of water, floating plants, and it's a spawning mop inside with eggs on. It's clean water, tap water, left outside for 2 or 3 days so there's no chlorine. Now, keep an eye on it. When the fry hatch out, 1 to 2 weeks time, I'll start feeding them powdered fry food. But being outdoors, there's enough microorganisms floating about in the air and would land on the water and probably start producing a biofilm. And the microorganisms in the floating plants on the spawning mop. So there's going to be stuff for the fry to eat by the time they hatch, in 1 or 2 weeks, even without feeding them fry food. But for more control, if you like, I use this, which is a table, if you like, plastic pallet for the forklift truck, which I just put some bit of PVC pipe legs on, and there's acrylic sheet on the top to keep the rain off. Now normally I use this for growing seedlings for planting, but at the moment raising MEDAKA takes priority. Now, what I'm going to say, for more control, I use this sort of method here. Usually I get good results for outdoors, but I emphasise I live in subtropical climate. I'm retired, I've got time to spend on doing things like this. Other people maybe not copy exactly what I do, but you can choose bits and pieces maybe that suits your own temperature range and time constraints. Now usually I use 2 sizes of container. These here, which are the 6 litres, they take about 5 litres of water, so I call them 5 litres. They've got an overflow pipe which goes through, drill the hole, the overflow pipe goes out the side, we can see it, yeah. And on the other end is a bit of gauze held on with zip tie. So that one is I use out here for fry of MEDAKA. We've got lots of eggs. Can you breed them and keep them in small containers? If it doesn't work, then I can easily get more eggs. For other fry, which maybe need a bit more care, then I use this, which is a 12 litres, so it has about 10 litres of water, so I've got a 10 litre container, and I might even, if I'm starting in cooler weather, put it somewhere else with heaters inside. So I'll show one of those later, a couple of those later I've got with frying already, but they're more undercover. They're here. So that's the containers, that's where they are, and I'll start off with, to me, the most important point. I always start with clean water. Right? It's to me, I don't use pond water, don't use tank water from an aquarium or anything like that. I start with clean water. The tap water is fine. I mean, tap water's already got bits and pieces of if you dechlorinate it, leave it to stand for a couple of days. Really got sort of chemicals and stuff there which they've got a very low percentage of nitrates, for example. So microorganisms will float in on the air and start to form a biofilm. Now you can see here, this one is about 2 weeks, and there's a nice biofilm growing on the sides and the bottom of the container for the fry to feed on. And there'll be probably biofilm already there by the time the fry hatch. So they've got something to feed on, even though I start feeding them straight away. Yeah, obviously, if you're indoors, maybe you're not going to get this sort of microorganisms just sort of floating in on the breeze, and maybe you've got to do something different. But outdoors, yeah, I find no problem. The fly always finds something to eat. So I'll maybe emphasise once again, I only want to start with clean water. I don't want to bring in anything that might, have polluting substances. I don't want anything that might bring in disease, if I get as much as possible, if I can avoid it. So just clean water, and it works okay. So that means, as I say, no aquarium water, no green water with infusoria, which I don't want to add something like that to produce infusoria. You really got to put in some sort of nutrients, and I don't really want to add that for newly hatched fry. No plants, and definitely no snails. I used to a lot of advice out there. Sometimes put in a snail to eat any excess food that the fry don't eat. But I found the snails were also eating the algae. They were eating the biofilm, etc. that developed. So the resulting excreta I got from a snail was probably more polluting than any decomposing excess food. However, in maybe the bigger 10-litre containers, if I got no time to allow biofilm to develop before eggs hatch, then maybe I've got these ceramic rings in my pond filter. I will put those in, take it out of the pond filter, put in a 10-litre container, and then there's a ready-made beneficial bacteria and microorganisms to start off the fry. But I avoid it as much as I can, just to try and reduce risks of problems. Now, I found it's preferable for the fry to hatch and then remain in the same water. If you hatch in separate water and then you move them into maybe a container like this, there's an immediate water change, which again may weaken them, may cause damage. So I try and avoid that. So what I did before, which was I'd maybe have water and eggs in here. If or when the fry hatched out in there, then I don't want to move the fry using like a pipette like this, but I move the eggs from there to a new container with water, so the unhatched eggs stay in there, and then this water, the fry with this water, can be tipped into the container. But as I say, that gives you an immediate water change for the fry, which is maybe not that good. So I still do that if I just got 1 or 2 batches of eggs. But with this setup I've got now, what I did was to still have a cutout. These are cut down yogurt tubs, 1 litre yogurt tubs, so they're food grade, and I just cut them down to this sort of size. And then it's stapled on, just using ordinary paper staples, a bit of foam rubber there to make them float, and they've got cutouts around the rim, so they just float within the so I've got one, so they just float within the container, I put the eggs in there and just leave them, and then that means when the fry have hatched, if they want to go out into the wide world of the container, they can just swim out through those cutouts in the rim. But what I then found was that in fact just cutting down and having cutouts like that, they still, because of the type of plastic maybe of this yogurt pots, they still floated. And so you can see, like here, they're just floating at the surface. They don't need those foam rubber strips. They've got the cutouts. The fry can go in and out as they please. You know, these are just don't have to do this, but it just works okay. I just put the eggs in. And this is one of the recent ones with eggs. The fry just hatched 1 or 2 days ago, and it works no problem. Now these cut down pots floating in here, they've got quite a few advantages. So the eggs are kept near the surface, where the greater dissolved oxygen content. You're not like having eggs down the bottom of the container. Fryer surface feeders, so they almost got an instinct as soon as they hatch to go to the surface. So if the eggs were down the bottom, they've got a long way to swim to the surface. There they've only got maybe 10-15 mm to reach the surface. And they as soon as you can also see them as soon as they hatch, they tend to stay in these containers. So you can see some in here, maybe for a few days. So you can see them, see how they're getting on. You can just sprinkle a bit of food on the top. If they're hungry, they'll eat it. The oldest fry I've got in here is in this one and in this one. They're probably 5-6 days old, and also younger ones in here that hatched out over a period of days. Now you can't leave the fry in here for too long, otherwise they won't grow. They stop growing, they slow down, the growth will slow down a lot. So particularly in these 5 litre containers. So when they're about 3 weeks old, I will have a look and transfer the largest ones to grow out tubs. An arbitrary length maybe is about 10 mm or maybe 8 mm, something like that, a bit less than half an inch. If they reach that big by 3 weeks, then okay. If they're a bit smaller, I might still move the larger ones because they might be bullying the younger ones. So it's about 3 weeks. Maybe the smaller ones I might leave in here to grow a bit more because they grow at different rates, different growth rates. Maybe I might leave in here maybe 4 to 5 weeks. Depends. That sort of time scale. In larger 10 litre container I've got, which have got double the amount of water, probably I'll leave nearly all the fry in there for 4 or 5 weeks. If you've got about 20 fry, then they've got enough space up till about 10 mm. If they're larger ones which are bullying the younger ones, then I would move them. But maybe 4 or 5 weeks, I'd have a look at it. And I think that's about it. You just got to see how it goes. It depends on temperature, how fast they grow. Even if I miss 1 or 2 days feeding them because I'm too busy or whatever, they're probably going to find enough food in here anyway, but it might slow down their growth because they're not getting high protein food. And so that's it. It's system evolves as I go along. Again, may improvise a bit more in future, who knows. But that's the basic setup. Now, as usual, I'm long-winded. If I kept talking about all the details in this video, it'd go on too long. So I'll try to quickly do 1 or 2 more videos on like food, water changes, etc. in the next few days. Okay.